More questions for Blake Sawyer. The lines are full, so folks, do me a favor and try to get right to the point on your questions. We're going to our first-time caller, Alejandra in Chicago. Good morning, Alejandra.
Yes, good morning. I'm calling from Chicago. I'm originally from Lima, Peru. I'm a dual citizen, U.S. and Peruvian. In some areas, the standard of living in Lima, Peru is better than the U.S. Example, education, health, food, and quality of life. I had to come to the U.S. I have a postgraduate degree, and I have a executive job in the U.S. But my question is twofold. Number one is, what is the best country in South America to live and why, according to your opinion? And second is, what is your forecast on economic development and employment and investment opportunities in Brazil and Argentina?
Okay. Wow. With so many people waiting, Alejandro, I'm going to try to do this really, really short. You're right. Most of all the countries in South America have a higher standard of living than the United States. Let me address something just real quick. In the United States, the vast majority of people are in debt up to their eyeballs. The country in which I live, and similar to Peru, people own their own homes. I mean, we're talking all of them. The country in which I live, less than 3% of all the homes in the whole entire country have a mortgage on them. That means when you buy a home, you pay cash for it. You pay cash for everything. The country that I live in South America, it's all cash. So all those people concerned about those economic, from a Christian standpoint of view, people say mark of the beast or those tracking and tracing, RFID sort of things, that is not going to be the problem that it is going to be in most other countries in the world. The people don't have a concept except the United States if you've never left the United States. Here's a good example, Alejandra, that has actually lived and was raised in another country and been to the United States. Brazil, Argentina, all these countries have pros and cons. I can't take the time to get into all of them. They all have their different economic things, but I'll tell you what, I give charts, let's say an example for Argentina, and all the charts are going up, economically speaking, and the charts for the United States are all going down. The United States have almost twice the unemployment that Argentina has, okay, as an example. So the economic indicators are completely different. Most of these countries that are in our top 5, top 10, their economies are really moving forward. There's a lot of investment. When I bought my home, and I have a property that's like a miniature national park. I grow all my own food. I'm off the grid. I have my own water source. I mean, everything. When I bought my home 15 years ago, I was the only American in this particular area. Now there's like more than 50 Americans. Now there's more than 50 Europeans. There's a mass exodus out of the United States and Europe. I give the statistics. I give all the documentation. There's millions of people that are leaving, and they are going. Peru's in our top 15. They are going to these countries because you have a higher quality of life, just like Alejandro said.
And for those of you who are calling and emailing about wanting more information and wanting the list, I mean, he's given them. If you're listening, you've heard of the top 5: Argentina and Chile and Ecuador. So that's the area that he's concentrating on, and which he ranks highest of all. And if you are taking notes there, Skype Michael in Los Angeles. How you doing, Michael?
Hi, I'm doing fine. How are you guys?
Okay.
Hey, the average person, I just don't see them being able to move. They're not going to have the money. They're not going to be able to work once they get down there. Can you own a gun in this new utopia to protect yourself? Personally, I don't really want to live in a sweatbox that's infested with mosquitoes either.
Okay. All good points.
I would rather stay in America and fight. I love this country. I don't want to cut and run. And, if Soros is such a bad guy, why doesn't the CIA double tap him in the head like they did Osama bin Laden? I'll take my answers off the air.
Good stuff, Michael. Good.
Okay. Michael is like a lot of people, but as I said, you're playing Russian roulette. You're no different than somebody in Germany, Poland, or whatever, and you're trying to stick it out. If you want to try to stick it out, you can stick it out. But I am predicting 90% of the people living in this country today will be dead in the next 5 to 15 years. The globalists have said it. All the world's religions predict these sorts of things. It's all coming down, and if you want to stick it out, you want to fight for this country, you can. But, Michael, your relatives, your ancestors left the country of their birth and came to the United States to looking for a better life or fleeing certain death or destruction. You can't say that the people that are leaving the United States are not intelligent or they're not doing the right thing for themselves. It's not for everybody. But go ahead, you stick it out here and you see what happens.
You know, the mention was made by Alejandro 2 callers ago there about the standard of living. He said in some parts of Peru it's higher, and you mentioned that you thought the standards of living in several countries are higher. You know, I've only been to Brazil, and I saw Rio a couple of years ago, and gosh, you got a lot of rich people, at least maybe 10 or 15%, and then it looks like 80% ghetto in Rio.
Absolutely. Well, you know, Brazil has a different way of looking at life than our top 3 countries do. Brazil is in the top 5 for sure, but I think the information on the website will explain it to you why these countries are richer than Americans. This is the facade that we have here. You're in Vegas, George. Good grief. You know what's happened to the housing market there. 25% of every home in the United States, people owe more on it than what they could get if they sold it today. They don't own that home. The bank does. And the bank owns their cars, and because their credit card debt, if they sold everything they had, they would end up with either negative or very, very little, maybe the clothes on their back. In these other countries, everybody owns their home. They own their car. If economic things happen, nothing changes. They grow their food in their backyard. They're self-sufficient. It's not going to be as devastating as the people here in this country that will have absolutely nothing when the economic doo-doo hits the fan.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But going back to what earlier callers have said, is this: if 25% of the homes are homeowners are underwater, and people are facing bankruptcy and foreclosures, which are so prevalent here in Nevada, how do they pull up stakes and move? They can't.
You know, I've traveled the world over, and I've met guys that just grabbed a backpack, and they've been backpacking in different places of the world for 10 years. Where there's a will, there's a way. There have been hundreds of millions. That is not hyperbole. If I use hyperbole, I use bajillions. There have been hundreds of millions of people that have fled the country of their birth since the beginning of time. They have fled Pol Pot, Idi Amin, Stalin, Hitler. They have fled. Millions of people are fleeing the United States. Millions have already left. According to a Zogby poll, tens of millions are planning to leave shortly. They're already making plans. So certainly, if you don't think that you can do it, you can. But I have the information how to do it on the website. You can go to survivewithcoasttocoast.com, and you can look at the information. It's right there.
Okay, wildcard line. Greg in New Jersey. Hi, Greg.
Yeah, hi. I just want to confirm some of the things Blake was saying. Anyone can Google Francis Fox Piven or Cloward and Piven. These are 2 socialists who are working with the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, to create chaos and bring down capitalism. They're out there today. If you look at a picture of when President Clinton signed the motor voter bill, standing behind him are none other than Cloward and Piven. The other thing I want to say to confirm Blake's explanation as to re-education camps, there's YouTube videos. An FBI agent infiltrated the weatherman associated with Obama's friend Bill Ayers when he headed up the weathermen and the SDS, the Students for a Democratic Society. And in this meeting, they openly discussed re-education camps being created down in Georgia upon the collapse and the chaos once they were able to collapse the economy. And they were going to send Americans to the re-education camp, and they were discussing what they were going to do to those who were unwilling to become re-educated. And they estimated they would have to murder 25 million Americans who would not succumb to their re-education. These are facts, and they're chilling, and people better wake up, because there are people in America who are plotting, people like George Soros, to collapse our country's economy, our civil society, and our way of life. And although there are a lot of NRA members like myself who will stand up and fight along with our military, it may not be enough if there's total economic collapse. So, Blake, I do appreciate you standing up for your beliefs. I hope it doesn't come to that.
Neither do I, Greg. I really don't. But the handwriting's on the wall.
Open-minded. Blake, at least you're open-minded, and you're not afraid to speak the truth of what you know. And there are so many ignorant Americans out there that are just sitting around like sheep, being led around by the mainstream media, and they better wake up. So thank you very much for your information.
You're welcome.
Any other comment on that, Blake?
Well, no. I think people have their perception of things. I am a truth seeker. I want all the information that I can possibly grab and put all these pieces of puzzle together, like I talked about the jigsaw puzzle. When you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, you're going to see the handwriting on the wall in this country, and you're going to want at least an option. And I think that's what I give people. I give people information, how and where to survive the collapse, whether it's nuclear war, whether it's disease and pandemics, whether it's famine, starvation, hyperinflation, economic disaster, ruthless governments, whether it's a fascist, right-wing, Hitler-type takeover or a communist, Stalinist takeover of this country or a military dictatorship, if it's natural disasters, global climate change, whatever, there's places that you can go that's going to survive. And statistically, the stats don't lie, but I've traveled these countries, I've investigated them, and what can I say? The people that have done it just tell me incredible information, life-saving information. The people that have actually left the country say it's the best thing they've